yet again, here we are, consistent. Look at us.
I know, right?
We decided that this year we were going to be consistent in whatever we chose it to be. So I guess we can get started. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to Yes We Fight. I'm Julia Marie Mays.
I'm Gerald Mr. Beepause Mays.
I was expecting more.
That's it. Yeah, you only said your name.
I mean, that's true. That's so true.
I know.
No, I know. I get it. For those of you that are tuning in or will tune in, thank you for spending Saturday morning with us. I am currently a first grade teacher here in the Las Vegas Clark County School District. Gerald?
I'm just like a dude that just be around the city, hanging out, trying to do cool things.
I really wish all of us were able to have that job
side,
description.
On the side, I coach a little bit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I coach people. Well, I'm fine-tuning, or not fine-tuning, but I am learning what I do. Right now, I'll just say, I get money.
Oh.
No, I won't even say that.
Okay, so you know what you're good at, and you're just fine-tuning how to...
I'm learning. And
aren't we all?
Yeah, no shit, right?
So how was the week?
The week was very, very eventful, to say the least. We did a show on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So
we actually did two shows that night. You were at one event.
Get this set up.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I thought you were saying. So we actually did two events on Thursday night. So us being out in the world. So Thursday night, Gerald was at Silver Nugget. For Let's Talk Love, hosted by Tasha Keys, aka Dr. Love. Really, really great show. Men's panel, women's panel, discussing love and asking questions. Really good, really informative. I missed the men's portion of it, sadly, because I was at Mariposa's for Girl Talk, hosted by Black Joy Consulting Coach, aka Aisha.
Yep, Coach Kenna and Mariposa's Cocina, not Coquina.
Not Coquina, as Gerald learned last week. It is Cocina.
Mariposa's and Singles University. How was that show?
You know what? It was really, really good. I thought it was good. I really wish. So I thought the show went good. It was me and Jazz, who is a part of our squad, up there having girl talk, literally talking about dating and what's any positive, negatives, dating apps, expectations, roles of women, how we feel, times are changing. So I thought the conversation was good. I really appreciated Aisha being in the audience, kind of facilitating questions, because not everybody wants to talk. You know, even though it's a smaller environment, not everybody wants to say anything. You know, you put the mic in front of people, and it's like,
Right. Yeah, I get it.
So, but overall, it went really good. I enjoyed listening to the female panel at Let's Talk Love. That was really
you
good.
didn't get to see the men's panel, but the men's panel was pretty good. I really enjoy those types of environments and settings to be able to kind of chat or talk, and some of it is just connecting with other people and showing people that, hey, we're all in this community together. We all kind of have some very similar feelings and ideas, and that we should stick together, while also trying to teach a little bit, you know what I mean, to help people out. But it's just such a good environment for people to get together in a very positive setting. So I do definitely want to take my hat off to Tasha Keys, Miss Love Doctor, who put on that event.
Yeah, it looked really nice.
The community needs events like that. All of our communities needs events like that.
No, I completely agree. And I find that now that we've finally kind of started venturing out of the hole that we've kind of slightly buried ourselves in, we kind of keep in our tight little circle.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much going on surrounding love and surrounding relationships and surrounding health, just because right now we're in such a space where there's a shift, in just my opinion. We're finally, like we've said multiple times, finally coming to a place of understanding that so many of the things that we've passed on, or even the cultural or those traditions that we've held so tight onto, we've realized some of them are rooted in some really unhealthy spaces. I definitely want to talk about on a different day some of the positive things that we've passed down, but we are reshifting our minds and allowing people to be people, men and women alike. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
You appreciate it from me, or you appreciate it from all these people?
I appreciate it. I appreciate the shift. I
Fair
appreciate the shift because I too was a part of all of that. As far as just unlearning things and recognizing that the things that I actually not just held tight to, but the things that I knew
Mm-hmm.
didn't actually create some positive things. So what I wanted to talk about today and what I was thinking about was marriage misconceptions and myths. Things that we've grown up with, things that society's told us, things that our families have shared, what we've ourselves seen, things that we thought about marriage to be true, only to find yourself married and realize it ain't true. And not only is it not true, it's like 1,000% not true. And now you got another person involved, like fighting you tooth and nail for something that you're like, no, this is it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All of those shows that I watched growing up, a baby story, a marriage story, all these things that 16-year-old Julia raced home from Rancho High School to watch.
But why?
Only to, I'll tell you that in a second, only to find out, get married, you didn't do not one of those things. And not even in a bad way. Just things that I was like, oh man, I can't wait. You know what I mean? I'm going to have his children, and he's going to be so sad to see me in pain. And I remember asking you, I was like, did it hurt you to see me in so much pain giving birth? And you were like, no, that looked terrible. And I was like, what? And you're like, no. I was like, you didn't want to take the pain away from me?
No.
And you're like, no, it looked awful. I was like, oh my God. My
The Bible said y'all deserved it, so.
I should have known you were going to do that. I should have known. I walked into that one.
So why would I want to stand in the way of what the Lord has for you?
This guy.
Just
this
saying.
guy. But yeah, so I want to talk about misconceptions and things that we really, really thought to be true, and maybe some things that people still believe to be true that have shown not so much. Not so much. I think it's also kind of interesting to think, at least for me, that our views on marriage are different, but so is the influence. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Besides a baby story and all of that.
Even our perception of marriage has shifted and changed as well.
Like the roles, gender roles, things like that.
Even outside of the roles, just our understanding of it. Like, for example, when we were like, marriage was the end all be all.
Yeah.
Right now, marriage isn't necessarily the end all be all for everybody. There's a lot of this like hybrid marriage stuff that happens. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also like long-term committed relationships, people getting married or getting together. Like when I was in the military, like, do you know how many people were like how many 18-year-old PFCs show up to boot camp already married just because they get an extra like $1,000 a month in BAH?
BASBH.
You know what I mean? Like,
I've seen it in the Air Force
like
many times.
I feel like sometimes it's like I'm not the one to be to tell people what you should or shouldn't do in marriage or that. I think I'm not the moral police. I've said this a million times. I'm not here to press someone's morality, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But still, like people get like we have so many different examples of how people have used marriage. If you get what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying. And to kind of tie that back in as far as marriage misconceptions, because I mean, and I guess in a situation like that, you know, marriage can be used, basically what you're saying, in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, that influence. So if you're seeing people use marriage like that, I can definitely see how you wouldn't respect it as much or see it as anything if you've seen multiple people just do it for a personal gain. I'll say that one of the biggest marriage misconceptions that I had before I got married and even while we were married was long marriages equating to happy marriages or viewing it as success. And I'm not saying that a 50-year marriage isn't successful. It is 100%. 50 years of being with one person, being able to navigate is like an accomplishment.
If your goal is to be married for a long time,
right. But what I thought, it wasn't just about the length. I thought that like they must be happy, and since being married for almost 15 years, I've realized that that is not the case. That being in a marriage for 50 years does not automatically equate to a happy marriage. You know, I've seen a lot, even some of the marriages around me, where they've been married for 40 plus years.
And hate each other.
Yeah, they don't like each other. They don't really have positive relationships. Like now they live like almost separate lives to an extent in certain areas. And I'm like, I don't want that. And I learned that just being together, like there's things that they didn't deal with. There's conversations they didn't have. There's situations that happened that hurt that were never rebuilt. There's so many different areas. But so for me, a long marriage does not always mean happy.
Because like it's funny because like in that event that we did on Thursday, one of the questions was like, I forget what the question was, like what makes a successful relationship or whatever, and one of the answers that we gave, me and the therapist that was on stage as well, the other marriage therapist, he said, I said actually, refrain.
Let me rephrase that. I said
at the end of the day, I just like her, and he wrapped up what I said pretty well. I said I just like that motherfucker, like I just like her, and he was like. When he got the mic, he was like, I want to second what he says, and that is huge. Like, I like her. Like, love only gets you so far, and it may keep you in the game so that you don't like tear each other apart or beat each other up. But you need to like each other in order to be willing to fulfill each other's needs, right? Love don't get you that far, and I think the biggest misconception that I have, I told you I'd find a misconception if once we start talking, because my misconception is that love ain't enough. Love ain't enough to have a successful marriage. No. It's enough to stay married and to fulfill your...
It's enough to give you hope.
Yeah, but it's also enough to fulfill whatever this external shit is that we believe about marriage, right? Like, if you are a religious person and you subscribe to those religious beliefs, then they will make you believe that you are doing right because you didn't leave, despite you hating this motherfucker, right? Despite you hating the person that you spend all your time with, most of these institutions will tell you that you need to stay. And I'm not the one to tell you that you should or shouldn't. That's up to you and your religious subscription, to determine if you should or should not stay. But even that is starting to become unrealistic expectations to where even the church is changing their tunes. When my parents were on the verge of getting divorced, my mom and dad both got ostracized from the church.
And this is like, what, early 90s?
Yeah, this had to be like 92, 93, 94, something like that. Mm-hmm. They got ostracized for getting a divorce in the church. My dad held these very high understandings of what he believed was I don't know, and so he felt justified because he wasn't the one who petitioned for divorce. And I think that is, I don't want to say wrong, right? But I think it is very misguided, very misleading, and it's not sufficient for in the world we currently live in. So even churches are changing their tune to a degree as to those very hard-pressed standings of marriage. Because it used to be, you stay married forever. My grandmother stayed married. All of our grandparents stayed married to our grandfathers, and our grandfathers was out there doing all kind of crazy shit. Maybe not y'all grandfather, but my grandfather probably was.
I've since learned that there's definitely things that my grandparents went through 100% that I had no idea, just because by the time I came around, they had worked out some of those kinks. So I'm over here looking at their marriage like, that's what I want. And I still want that. Like, there's aspects of it by the time that I came around that I'm like, I really value that. But what it took to get there was not even just a misconception for me. I had no idea the amount of effort that went into it. And I like what you're talking about, because that's something that I'd put up there, that all you need is love. Love may keep you through, but kind of tying into what you had said, or piggybacking off of that, love has the ability to make great things, but love, I also have learned, I love him, I love her, keeping you in some really, really unhealthy, terrible situations. I love him. If he's not with me, he's not going to be with anybody else. And I'm like, girl, let him go.
Yeah, it's like
let her go.
You have to value yourself more than whatever they are doing or saying or whatever.
Yes, which is difficult, we get, but here we are. Here we are to help you recognize that it doesn't have to be that way. And the power of choice is there. So I urge you to utilize choice, in not just in your marriage, but in life. So,
but you said something about love, right? And I think one of those deals that we have, right, is like, we say shit like, love covers the multitude. And I'm not disagreeing that, right?
Yeah.
It's written. I'm not going to say that it's wrong. I'm just saying that we can't use that statement to circumvent reality. Love covers the multitude doesn't necessarily mean that love should make you stay. Love should make you deal with all of this stuff. Love covers the multitude is your protection, right? It's to help you process whatever is necessary for you. You have to love yourself in order to do that.
I have something for that.
Go ahead. You got some rebuttal. I know I'll be trying to. I take all of these things and I say some different shit. I don't know. Go ahead. What you got?
It's not necessarily a rebuttal in general. My thing with love covers the multiple. The way that I view it is love has the possibility to cover the multitude. Love has the possibility. The only thing about
love covers all things.
Right. Love can cover all things.
The multitude, they say.
Right. The thing about that I think doesn't always translate into people's lives is me saying that love covers the multitude does not give me the steps of how to utilize love. How do I use love? How do I use love to cover that? How do I deal with that, whatever that was, to allow it to cover? There's been plenty of situations in our marriage where love has covered certain things, but that covering part is an action. That's an action word in my mind. Covering. You're covering something. You're covering. But how you cover it is a different thing. Am I covering it? Like, people can take that and just like hide it, tuck it away, and then we just press on from it? Or we actually cover it as far as walking through the process? There's a process involved in that I don't think everybody really, we don't always think about. So love has the ability. It's one of the most power things, and love does cover. But what does that covering process look like? You know what I mean? So
yes.
For me, that
was absolutely fantastic.
That's just how I see it. You know.
That's fantastic though.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, honestly. Now that you put it that way, not that I disagree with you before, but like now that you put it that way, no, you right as a motherfucker. A mug. Dinner mug, like a dinner mug. I covering is an action word. Yeah. So that means you have to do something. So love can cover the multitude if you use the cover, right?
Right. And you have to find what that is.
I feel you. I like that. So if it's cold in the room, love is like a warm blanket. And you can choose to wrap yourself in love and be warm. Or you can fight the elements. Can I get this?
I can't snap with my left hand. You're getting a really solid right snap here. This left.
Well, you're using too many fingers on the left hand.
I can't snap okay, so I don't snap with.
First off, you're doing it wrong.
This one, I snap with this finger, which I know is
wrong.
Weird. But I've always snapped like that. I didn't discover that until a few years ago. I snapped wrong.
Snaps like this. Look at this. Look at the video. Look up there. Look. See my hands? Who does this? I could do it though.
Yeah. Your girl over here has got one good solid right snap, and that's it. So if I'm in the poetry room, you're getting one solid snap, no disrespect, because the left one is not working.
I always do this.
But we digress in our snapping abilities. Okay, another misconception that I have had to learn the hard way is what?
Sorry. Keep going. If I have to, then I'll let you know.
You're gonna tell the people in the world.
There's a possibility that I'm gonna have to leave this podcast in like 3 minutes. I am being activated. My intestines are being activated right now.
Intestines.
So I may have to walk off here in a couple seconds.
Oh, should I continue?
You got to. We already live now. We can't just back off of this. But
okay.
I'm confident in you. You already rocked the show out once this week. I'm pretty sure you can rock this one out while I lose a couple pounds.
Your faith gives me courage.
Yeah, I hope so. You got to get something. What else is that?
Okay, so I think another misconception that I 100% had was, and maybe the ladies in the room type thing will be able to understand this. I really, really thought that I grew up very, I would say, traditionally. I've always described myself as a plate maker. You kind of get that or you don't. Like, I watched my mother, I watched my grandmother, I watched the women in my family with very Latin traditions serve their partner, making the plate and giving it to them. I'm not going to get into the debate of who got the plate first, but they made plates. So therefore, I did. I make plates. I was always knew I'm going to be cooking and cleaning. I'm going to be a homemaker. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be providing all these things. And I really, really thought that because I had what society and culturally for my family was described as like a deal, that I was going to find somebody and he was just going to love it. Like, he was going to not have an issue. There was going to be no problems. He was going to know that he found a gem because I do all these things. And sadly, I found the opposite. And I'm not saying that he didn't like those things, but it was really, really early on in, he's gone for a second, that Gerald and I, when we first got together, like early on in that marriage and that relationship, that we were having an argument. And he had told me, he was like, you don't do anything for me. You don't do anything for me. And I almost had my clutching pearls moment. Like, what are you talking about? I don't do anything for you. I was like, I cook, I clean, I do all these things, I take care of the kids. And he was like, I can do all those things myself. I can cook my own food. I can take care of all these things. And I was just like, blown away. I was blown away because I really, really thought that that was being received and valued in the same way. And it wasn't. And I want to make sure that I'm not trying to paint a negative light on him in any way. It's just an understanding that what he thought and valued wasn't the same as mine. And that was just extremely difficult for me because I, as a woman, I'd found so much identity. I found a lot of identity in doing those womanly things that for him was different. Gerald and I have had multiple conversations to where, he was raised by a single mother, and then he was living with his father in his later years. But when we first got together, there was this push for me to be so independent. Even within our marriage, I would hear things like, I don't want you to need me. I want you to want me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to depend on me like that. And here I am over here trying to be like, but I do need you. Like, I do need you. I need you to fulfill this aspect of my life because I'm trying to stay home and raise these children. And you need to be out there, which means I need you. So there was really, really like a disconnect between, we both wanted the same things, but our communication wasn't there yet. I didn't know how to communicate. I just wasn't there yet. I'd never seen my parents argue. I'm not saying that I didn't hear like disagreements, but my parents, if they've argued through their entire marriage as far as when we were growing up, I never saw that. So I never was able to see conflict resolved. I was never really, I didn't know how to argue. So, trying to fight through that and through communication that Gerald and I were still figuring out was really, really difficult. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Feel like
Welcome back. Do you want me to catch you up on what we've been discussing?
Nope, just keep going. I'm pretty sure you was telling secrets.
Yes, between me and the world. Between me and the world.
Only you.
But no, so.
I had to poop.
Did you have to poop?
Yeah, it was really bad. It was all them oranges. I had like 6 oranges yesterday for some reason.
I knew you'd eaten oranges. Did you eat that many?
I was murking them oranges.
Well, thank goodness I'm going to be going grocery shopping again.
Yeah, my stomach was bubbling.
Well, I mean...
Thanks for holding it down, babe.
No problem. That's what I do. You know, misconceptions. I would like to hear your vantage point from what you thought. So I was talking about how, like, what I thought a woman was supposed to be and what I thought a wife looked like and the things that I did, the cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids. Yep. And then in our argument that just, like, I let everybody know my pearl clutching moment, I can't believe it, is when you were like, you do nothing for me. You don't do anything for me. I was just like, oh, you know, like, cue dramatic everything, because I really was, like, hurt. And he was like, I can do all those things myself. You know, I don't need that. And I was explaining, you know, you being from a single, more independent person, and then living with your dad, and then me, like, trying to let you know, I'm trying to need you, and you're like, don't need me, and I'm like, I kind of do. Yeah. So how was it for you, you know, the vantage point, what I valued, it's not that you didn't value it, you just didn't value it in the same way.
I think there's a part where it's an individual thing, right? And people have, for me at least, like, I have an example of what I think people are supposed to do, right? And it's like fill in the gaps of the shit that I don't do, not necessarily like hand over stuff. So it was very hard for me to hand over any part of my life to anybody and then have them take credit in an argument, if you know what I mean. So like what you're saying, where it's like you don't do anything for me, is a response to being made to feel like these things that you do, the cooking, the cleaning, the whatever those things are, somehow circumvents what I'm trying to ask you for, if you know what I'm saying. Because every single time I've said that, it's always been, I'm saying that I need you to do this, and you're saying, but I do these things. And I'm like, you don't do shit for me, because this is what I need from you, and the shit that I ask you to do is what you don't do. And the shit that, and your excuse for not doing that thing, or not excuse, but your reason for not doing that is because you do these things. So like, I didn't come to the table with this like preconceived notion as to what a marriage is supposed to be, because I'd never seen one really. I never seen two people interact, so all I had was a bunch of what won't happen. I've seen dudes shut down and they tell you, oh, don't pick fights with your wife, happy life, happy wife, or happy wife, happy life. And I was like, I don't want to live a life where I ain't happy because I'm so busy trying to not piss off the person that live in my house. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of like the misconceptions about marriage. I personally don't have any. I thought, I guess, if I did have one, I thought that you would want to do what I asked.
You said that so serious, and I know exactly what you're saying, but I'm just laughing because that wasn't it. That wasn't the case.
I just thought you would want to do what I said. Like, cause all the shit that I seen on TV as well in marriages, the wife just do what the husband say, and she be smiling and shit like, "Hey, I cooked dinner and I did all these things and I took a bath and did my hair but you don't do that. You didn't do that. I mean, because you are a working mom and you need time." To be able to do all of those things.
Do you feel like that was, though, at the beginning of our relationship, though? Because in the beginning, well, I mean, throughout our entire marriage,
we've always kind of worked off and on and doing something. Like, we never, you were a stay-at-home mom because you were at home. but you were working at home.
I refer to it as a stay-at-home working mom. But during those years, but in particular during the early years, I still got up and made your lunch and made the breakfast and made sure the kids had everything together. Do you feel like that in the early parts of our marriage and in our relationship, the value that I had in doing all of those things for you and our family, do you feel that they were seen and valued in the same way, held as much weight as I held for them?
Yes, in the beginning. No, once the arguing started.
Which wasn't long after.
No, it was cool, but like you came in with that being the only thing.
Because I thought, based on my notes and based on what I was told,
you were like, I cook, I clean, like, I do all of this shit. Therefore, I'm good. Therefore, my value is high. Therefore, whatever. And I'm like, hey, I've been on my own since I was 13. I don't need none of that shit. I've been out here fending for myself since I was 13. I could care less if you cook or clean. I'm trying not to exist alone. Like, I think what was misunderstood was I don't need any of this. I don't need a house to be cleaned. I don't need a refrigerator and kitchen to be cooked in. I can live my life in a pickup truck and a fifth wheel, rolling through the country. I need conversation. I need to like you. I need to vibe. And I need you to listen to what I say. Not and do what I say, but I need you to listen to me. Not filter me through you, but listen to me.
Right. And I think also on top of that, we also were in a place where, like, while all of this is happening as far as, like, in the early parts of our marriage and, well, for a considerable amount of time, we're still dealing with some really unhealthy things within ourselves. You know what I mean? There's still a lot of stuff going on. We definitely, the way that we communicated back then and the choice words and all of that, we're definitely not as refined. So the words that we're using right now was not. Absolutely. It was definitely a more, not primal, but for lack of a better word, it was just, it wasn't like that. I'm dealing with, like, I'm trying to make him happy coming from a genuine place where I really do want to make him happy, but I'm also coming from a very insecure place of wanting to feel good and doing these things.
To be validated for your work.
Wanting to be validated because for me, doing those things really mattered to me. He's right. If I was married to somebody else, I would be doing those things. But the fact of the matter for me was I wasn't married to somebody else. I was married to him.
You say he's right.
Yeah, so you read that to me.
To preface that is what I say. You would do this to anyone if you were married to anyone.
Right.
That's not special to me.
But it wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
That's how I said it all the time, and it's not taken that way either. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't sound that way. It sounds kind of...
It sounded for me invalidating. For me invalidating.
Because it is invalidating.
Because it's true. I would have done that. But the point of that was... I mean, not to say like
but
that.
You aren't doing it for everybody. You're doing it for me.
Right. I am doing it for you. This is your home. These are your children.
Stop fighting with me on Yes We Fight.
Okay? But they're your children. And, you know what I mean? And I couldn't understand that. And I think for me, thinking about it, I think I fought through all of that for those years is because I didn't know how to do anything else. I didn't know how to do anything else. I held on to it because truly it was the only identity that I had. It was the only identity that I had. I wasn't in college. I didn't have this grand education. I wasn't like this super boss bitch. I wasn't any of that. I was a mom and I was a homemaker. And I didn't know how to be anything else. And still to this day, I just started a career. And sometimes... Just started. It's 40, just started. 41, almost 40.
You just now started making money. I've been taking care of you all this time.
Oh my gosh, I tricked him. I tricked you.
And then you have the nerve to tell him.
No. But no, you know what I mean? Like, that identity we've talked about. Like, I identified so much as that I fought it. Because it really was the only thing that I felt that I could do. And it was a struggle. It caused a lot of heartache, and we grew. But that was, I think, to tie it back to all the minutes ago, that was one of the biggest misconceptions, that who I was going to be seen in the same way, and
Ooh,
and that wasn't it.
that is a very good generalization, right? Is that who we think we are? Like I struggle with that, actually. I struggle with displaying authentically, right? Who I think I am internally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the hardest thing to do sometimes is the hardest thing to experience is to be misunderstood
Mm.
with no way to reconcile,
Right.
right? Like I said something and now you think I'm an asshole. I didn't say that with the intention of you believing that I'm an asshole, or even thinking or even considering that that's what I meant. And now I'm all flustered. So now instead of dealing with the conversation or dealing with whatever we have going on in front of us, I'm actually trying to figure out why you even think that. What have I done in the past to make you
Right.
think that that's what I would mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Which causes its own.
yeah, because there's so much invalidating in relationships in the beginning and throughout, because it's really easy to understand. And I said this at our show, at the show that Dr. Love said, is that love is an interesting thing, and love with another person is even more interesting, because it is the only relationship that you have, that you want forever, even if it doesn't last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Right now in the moment, you want that forever, that you and the other person have to choose to be together every day. It is the most reciprocal love that you can have. Being a parent is not reciprocal.
No.
Not at all. I love my kids. My kids don't have to love me back. I just watched a video, I posted it a little while ago, of Ryan Clark saying this exact same thing. I had that exact same conversation with a friend of mine, Jonah. My kids don't owe me anything. They didn't ask to be here.
No.
That love isn't reciprocal. They don't have to understand how hard I work for them.
Right.
They don't have to understand what it takes. They don't have to even respect that I'm doing it.
Right.
They don't have any other example. I have two. I have how I was treated, and how I'm going to treat my kids. My kids just have me.
Right.
That love is not reciprocal. They don't have to love me back. They don't have to give me anything back at all. With my spouse, it is reciprocal, and we have to believe that it is 100. That despite the flaws, you give me your best. And through relationship, I learn your flaws, so that I can account for them and I can understand them. I can't change them. So that's another misconception too. You can't change your wife or your husband. Only they can.
Yeah, you can't love them into changing.
Nope. Only they can change. They will change for themselves when they believe that the benefit of changing is enough.
You know what? That brings up such a good point, because there were so many things that, like, I thought that if I did this, he would do that. And I realized how wrong, first of all, that was. But the hard part about it is that there were so many things happening within our marriage that I didn't like. I didn't appreciate all of it. I just didn't like these things. But when I think about it, the hard part about that is I'm telling him what he needs, not what he needs to do, but what I don't like this. I don't like this and I want you to stop. And he's like, no. So now I have a choice.
No, I ain't stopping that.
Now I have a choice. Now it becomes on me. So that means I have to be the one to take the step. There were plenty of things that, hindsight, looking at stuff, I'm like, I could have made a choice to leave. I could have made a choice to say, you know what, I'm not doing this. But taking that ownership and actually making those moves that we don't want is really, really hard in itself. So I, instead of like, well, he didn't he didn't change, he was still him. But for me, I stayed because I didn't want to pull the trigger on it. I didn't want to pull the trigger on it. I didn't want to be the one to end it because I was still so deep in my insecurity and in my codependency that I didn't.
And I stayed because I didn't want a second baby mama.
So, two very not positive.
I mean, you know what? I think, like, the reason why we're doing this show is because these things are messy. And they're the messiest shit in the world. They don't make sense. They don't, none of it. They don't make sense at all. Relationships don't make sense. Long-term committed relationships don't make sense. And if you've been in a relationship for a long period of time, you've had to deal with some shit.
Right.
You've had to put up with some shit from the other person. And that can make it messy.
It definitely can. I can look back at our marriage now on this healthier side and on this path of real joy and trust and safety. I can look back at periods of time and say, you shouldn't have been together.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have been together. You shouldn't have been together.
Boy.
You should have left. He should have left. This thing should have ended about 100,000 times.
But I think any marriage of that long has those situations. Show me a marriage where they say, me and my lady don't argue, and I'll either show you a short one or not a fulfilling one. Y'all don't argue because y'all only been together for a year. It's coming. I think saying it's coming feels like, for people, like, oh, well, you're being negative. No. It's the only way to carve out a solid relationship.
You know what? I agree. And I think it's coming because you guys might fold laundry differently. You guys are going to... There's little things that come...
You mean you guys might fold laundry different, and then when you fold laundry, she refolds your laundry because she doesn't like it. And then gets mad at you when you no longer want to fold laundry anymore. Was that too personal?
No, that was
still mad at you for that.
Oh my gosh. And I wasn't even trying to, actually. I didn't even tell him I didn't like it. I was just
still
doing
mad.
it intentionally.
I'm still mad.
Oh my gosh. I was just fixing it in front of him, and I didn't even
nothing.
think about it.
You
I learned after that. He didn't do
else.
laundry for like 5 years. I'm not
I
gonna lie.
I won't fold nothing.
He didn't do laundry for 5 years.
Well, Julia, it wasn't one time.
Well, we're not going into the particulars. What I'm saying is, what happened is I did that enough times to where you were like, I'm not doing it.
No, you did it enough times after me telling you stop doing it.
Well, I mean, the point still stands.
No,
I did this.
I'm saying that because that matters. That's the part where we're like, hey, you don't listen to what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you look through relationships and stuff like that, and as it pertains to these misconceptions, is that, you know, you think that, like, because we married and because we supposed to whatever, that when I say some shit, that you would take it into consideration. I never took into consideration what you had to say, but I thought that you were supposed to do it because I was the man. So since you don't want to listen to me, I ain't listening to you. Kick rocks. Good thing you didn't kick rocks.
I did not kick rocks.
Good thing I didn't kick rocks either, Julie. I'm a catch too. Call me the tuna.
Did you just make that up?
Just off the top of my head. Call me a freestyle rapper.
It's so funny.
I be freestyling these things.
But true. No, but it's true. You know what I mean? There's things and there's ways. And again, I want to point out that the way that we communicated and stuff at that point still was not, you know what I mean? The patience, you know what I mean? And the, like, willingness on both ends wasn't there. And I don't even think it just wasn't the willingness. I think it was just the inability. I wasn't able, to be honest with you, emotionally. I wasn't emotionally mature enough or emotionally aware. Not even just mature. I wasn't emotionally aware enough to be able to give him what he needed in certain situations because I had so much. I'm highly emotional. I'm very, like, I feel things very deeply, which in some ways is great. And then in other ways, catastrophic. So I had so much high emotion and so many triggers and so much unhealed and undealt with stuff that I wasn't able to get past myself. I didn't recognize it as that. And the way that I interpreted his words, you only think about yourself. You only think about yourself. I can look at it and see the truth within that statement, but then
But in
also
general, it's
see,
not true.
right, but also see that there was so much more to that. And I couldn't get past his words. I just couldn't get past the words in there. You know what I mean?
And I couldn't get past the feelings that produced those words. It's like I couldn't see that she wasn't just doing that. She wasn't doing that for everybody. She was doing that for me. She chose to do that for me. There was no one else that she was doing it for. So it's hard to do all of the things required in a marriage to keep everyone safe, because marriage isn't necessarily safe. It takes a lot of effort and work to be safe for each other.
Right.
Right? So like I have a responsibility to accept whatever it is that she says as whatever it is that she says. I also have every single right to clear it up if I don't see it that way. Or to make an adjustment so that I am not triggered. I listened to Dr. Love and her co-host on their show that comes on Wednesdays at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a dope show. Everyone listen to it on 702.5 FM. But she had said something about navigating or forgiving something. I forget, but she said that your triggers are the other person's responsibility, and I initially disagreed. I 100% disagree with her triggers being my responsibility. It's not. However, what I've learned the most about marriage is that what's right and what's efficient is two totally different things. It ain't my responsibility to manage her triggers. But if I want to have a successful, long relationship, then I have to make it. I have to make her triggers something that I consider before I say stuff.
Like mindfulness.
You have to be mindful of the other person. And being mindful often leads you to do things that other people in social media and on the internet giving guidance and counseling will tell you not to do. But being in long-term committed relationships is hard. It's scary. That's what she said. It's long, hard, it's long, hard, and scary.
Well, I guess maybe.
It is. It's long, hard, and scary. And because of that, you have to take everything into consideration. If you're with a person and every single time you say ketchup, they go berserk, the correct move isn't to coach them out of being triggered by ketchup. Your immediate reaction can be just stop saying it and not feel any kind of way because you have been made to not say something. That was huge for me. I don't know if this happens across the board, but for me, it's like I felt that you are shushing me because I don't like this. And just because you like doing it so much doesn't mean that I need to like it. Because I don't really care whether it gets done or not. Because now that the roles are reversed and I work from home, I do a lot of the cleaning. And you do the spot cleaning, the big cleaning, every now and again. And I do the cooking. Now what? So on the flip side of that, if we hadn't had these conversations about this, then there's a huge possibility that once she aligns her like this is what I do's with cooking and cleaning, when that gets taken away from you, then you struggle. So I think it's important to keep the open lines of communication up as we wrap up the show and tell you about the things that are upcoming. You know, as we talk about marriage and that thing, we want to make sure that you understand that it is personal.
Right.
Marriage is personal, and marriage needs to be discussed with the person that you're married with. Listen to what we say as examples, and maybe some things, maybe we can bring up some stuff that you and your significant other can go and talk about. But it's between you and that other person. The quicker you two can get on the same page, the easier it is to fight.
Right. No, 100%. I think also something that you said real fast before we wrap it up is being married to another person is the willingness and mindfulness to give another person something you don't need. It's the willingness to feel a need you don't have. I have a need to feel secure within my relationship in a certain way. Gerald does not have that same need in the same way. I have a need.
Still have the need though. I still have that need. Well, it just doesn't display itself the same. Right. And that's key. Go ahead.
Right. Which is what basically it. You know what I mean? I have a need. He has a need to be respected in a certain way within our relationship. I don't have that same need. But it is important for me to understand that he does. I have a need for emotional security within my relationship in a certain way. He does not have the same need in the same way. And just like you said, it's not presented in the same way at all. Mm-hmm. So the more that I take who he is into consideration, more likely I'm able to navigate through tougher conversations and sometimes even avoid them altogether, and vice versa. So the willingness to know a person and love them in that way without feeling some kind of way.
For sure. I like that. So as we wrap up, what's going on this upcoming weekend? We got a couple things going on. Mm-hmm. And this will be our last, not last, but next week's show, we're going to talk about some fun shit.
Yes.
We're going to talk about married sex. I just told you. You're welcome. We're going to talk about married sex. That topic comes up so much in these conversations, and I don't know.
Today we didn't even go that route.
I know. It's weird. It's weird, though, right? Like, married sex is a thing.
In what way?
And it's also an issue.
Yes. Okay. And I was going to ask you, what do you mean by a thing? Like, what do you think? Like,
I'm just saying, it's an issue. So
it's a heavy topic.
We're going to talk about long-term committed relationship sex. Sex with the same person for a long time. My daddy used to say, I like chicken, but I wouldn't want to eat chicken every day.
Every so often, you need like a possum or something? A quail?
Yeah, I guess so.
That can go so many different ways, and I'm so excited about it.
You eat some pigeon or something like that. So we want to talk about that. Like, I think there has to be, and we're going to have some tips on how to spice that shit up. So she's going to have to do a whole lot of research for the next show. So I'm just going to show up.
I will show actionable research.
There you go. So next week's show is that Thursday we have legislative session. So a lot of us in the community will be up in Carson City. So
I'll be here.
I don't know what's going on for that. And then be on the lookout for our live game show. We are hoping to be able to launch a date night live show at a local restaurant, hopefully Mariposas. If someone sees this and you don't know about this yet, we will be in contact soon. So we want to launch a live Thursday night date night show where you come down, enjoy food, drinks, vibes, get to know other married couples, other long-term committed couples, and let's have some fun, talk about some cool shit, give away some relationship boosting prizes.
Ooh.
Yes. I can't wait to do a show like that. Like, we've been doing these talks and they get so serious.
Yeah.
That I'm like, real life ain't like this.
Mm-mm.
There's very small pockets of that, but most of the time we're looking to enjoy the company and the time. Like, Julie and I talk a lot, but we spend a lot of that time talking about bullshit.
Yeah.
And how great I am. Like, how similar to...
How close to perfection.
How great I am at shit, you know? That's usually what I talk about.
Oh.
And she agrees, so she does it all.
It's true. So it came back full circle on wanting that person that smiles.
Mm-hmm.
So you're welcome. Anybody out there, if they have any things that are couples can can do together that you would like as a prize that we will be handing out to the couples there for the game show. If anybody does something like that or has somebody after this, tag us so that we can connect and try to get what you supply for other couples out there.
Absolutely. So get in contact with us because we want to give away your stuff to people. We want people to experience you.
And experience themselves and
each other. And we're going to talk about the best way to experience your partner next Saturday.
Okay.
Boom. Until next time, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good week.